Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run around and desert you. Never gonna make you cry. Never gonna say goodbye. Never gonna tell a lie and hurt you. Ooh, give you up. Never gonna give. Never gonna give.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Classic Theology.
We're back to our old self. Like, we're laughing. We're not so serious in the beginning anymore.
No, this is good. This is good.
Yeah.
Dude, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Nice.
4th of July was crazy.
Yes, it was. They'll be listening to this about a week after, but yeah, it was a good celebration for Clear Lake and then the city. And
I'm officially a Clear Lakean, though.
You're officially a Clear Lakean.
Yeah,
now.
I've been here 9 years.
Okay.
And legitimately, if you're from Clear Lake, you'll understand this. By day 2, I was like, get off my lawn. Like, why are you here right now?
Oh, for
all
the
the traffic, yeah, all the traffic, all the people. I'm like, why are you in my town? Why are you here? I was so snobby. Like, literally, I was holding my nose up. I was like, I can't believe you're in my town right now.
It is funny, yeah. How, yeah. I mean, this sounds terrible. So I'm definitely willing to throw myself under the bus for a second.
Everybody who's in Clear Lake knows exactly the feeling I'm talking about.
Yeah, no. I'm saying I totally am willing to say I feel the same way. In fact, I almost feel like my head's on more of a swivel during like these couple of weeks than any time else, because I'll also say one thing. You know, some people just don't know how to drive.
It was legitimately like I have this vision. So my best friend in high school, who died 9 years ago, actually this last month, it'll be 9 years that he died, cancer.
Wow.
But when we were in high school, we used to joke that we were going to own houses next to each other. Mm-hmm. And we were going to sit on our porches as old men with hoses and spray kids and just say, get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn. Get off my lawn.
No, so I mean, honestly, I love the fact that our city does that. Of
course.
But there's a point where I'm just like, oh my gosh, there's so many people, because we're not a big town.
It's like
there's like 70,000 people that come through.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent of like when people are at your house past, a certain time, you're like, this was lovely, go home.
I'm so glad you came. Now leave. No. Actually, that's never happens for me.
You're social, you could go till.
I'm such a social guy. Well, okay. I learned this several years ago. Extroverts, as they get older, often become more introverted.
Yeah.
But also, the more in leadership that you go, you move from extroversion to introversion.
Really?
Because the difference between introversion and extroversion is not, it's not about whether you like people, it's where you get your charge, where you get your battery charge.
Yeah, that's a common misconception. It's like, oh, that sociable person is obviously an extrovert.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's actually, they're just sociable, but they need to go home and recharge later.
Yes. It's solar powered versus battery powered.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So I'm solar powered. I used to be solar powered. Now, crowds don't energize me as much. Now, the right people energize me much. But crowds, it used to be, put me in a crowd and I was like, yeah. But as I've gotten older, and I mean like in last 15 years, I went from I love being in crowds to now I'm like, but I'm still an extrovert because I actually, if I get 3 or 4 of the right people around me,
yeah,
that absolutely.
Those safe people.
Those safe people. And what I found is this, and it's interesting because we're going to talk about calling today, but what I realized is that when I was younger, the reason why I got charged around crowds is because it was just the energy of the people.
Yeah.
As you move up in leadership, people they consume. Like that's leadership. That's one of the costs of leadership is there is a consumption of who you are. People need things from you. And so now the crowds aren't energizing because most of the time, as a leader, they're
taking something.
And that's the job.
And that, you're not complaining about what is happening.
No, not at all.
But the recognition of the transaction that's actually taking place and how it changed.
Whereas when I was younger, it put me in a party and I was like, woo, right? Yeah. And so what I've discovered is I've actually become more introverted, but I still have that. You put me in a crowd and I definitely get more energized. But it also goes back to that calling piece, which we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
Now, I'm pretty sure you're an introvert. Like you,
I am an introvert. Yeah.
Like fully 100%. battery charged, or do you find it also like the people you're around?
It is also the people, yeah, but it's my safe people. I can become very, charged.
Yeah.
If it's the right group. I got paid bless you.
Was that a
bless you, Courtney.
sneeze?
Yeah, she was trying to. Nah.
Hold on, no.
Bless
Wait,
you.
Literally, that was the tiniest sneeze.
She was trying to hold it because she was being
No,
considerate
how
of
did
the
you
podcast.
not? How did you not blow out your eyes?
No,
how
but
did
it's
you not
okay.
blow out your eyes? Like I thought you couldn't hold in a sneeze without dying.
That's totally a myth.
No, I mean
You probably shouldn't do it over a long course of time because then you're gonna get like an aneurysm.
Or you
but
break the blood vessels in your
Yeah.
eye or something. Like
Anyway.
legitimately, it sounded like you were gulping.
Courtney is deeply unsettled by us mentioning this right now.
I am also an introvert.
But no, okay. So here's what's interesting about that. Like I sneeze, people are like, really, you got to be that dramatic? No, I'm not. I have no choice.
Have you ever heard me sneeze?
No.
Everyone says I sneeze like Donald Duck. My mom sneezes No, seriously. No, seriously. Just you wait. You'll catch it one day.
When I sneeze, like I'm loud and I'm big, and people are like, oh, you're just being dramatic. I'm like, you think I choose that? If you hear my mom sneeze, you've heard me sneeze.
Yeah, that's the same with same.
Yeah, like it is a big and if I tried to control it, I probably would die. I would rupture something if I tried to hold in a sneeze. That's a real thing.
Yeah, but no, but I will say I agree with your sentiment that as I have gotten older, I have found myself even going deeper down the rabbit hole of introversion.
Yeah.
And now it's even gotten to the point where like Allison's the best thing ever. My daughter Allison,
Yeah.
because I have a built-in get out of my house. My baby has to go to bed.
Oh,
It's so
yeah.
good. I mean, I love people, and I certainly love hosting people. And that's where I'd say like my extroversion can come out, especially in that context. But Allison's been nice for when my battery's low and her battery's low. She does need to go to bed. It's just
That is a real thing. When
I'm glad it's at 8 p.m. so I can also go to bed.
That is a real thing. All right, so check this out. There's a new one called Outrovert.
Yeah, and that's like both, right?
Yeah, it doesn't feel a deep need to belong to the group. They can do either.
Mm-hmm.
That's a new one.
That's cool.
Yeah, I don't know.
What does that look like practically though?
I think those are just people who are like, you can't categorize me. I'm an outrovert.
What an Enneagram 4 thing to say.
Oh, that's too funny.
I'm saying that as an Enneagram 4. Don't get mad.
There are probably people more upset that you even mentioned the Enneagram.
That's probably true.
Welcome to Pocket Theology. We're just defending everybody today.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Let's. Okay. So,
All right,
but
calling.
let's rein it in just a little bit today. So we wanted to talk about calling and let's narrow that down a little bit because that's a pretty big category.
Yep.
What are you trying to leave the viewer with today as we disseminate Christian calling?
That's a big disseminate
Yeah.
Christian calling.
Yeah.
There's a lot of conversation around purpose and calling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so purpose is the thing that God puts you on this earth to do.
Okay.
Now, fundamentally, all human beings have one primary purpose, which is to glorify God and make God known and know God.
Okay.
That's one purpose. All human beings were created to know that.
Sure.
But then you have the purpose, like what was the purpose why Jadan was brought on, that God said, hey, Jadan, here's your purpose.
Yeah.
Calling is how you live out that purpose. So
Sure.
your calling can change. Your purpose, I think your purpose can morph or change over time, but purpose is pretty consistent. Whereas calling can be very situational.
Okay. So you're saying, so baseline, Christian and human purpose.
All humans were created to
Purpose.
know God, be known by God, and to make him known.
Okay. And then how that is lived out is in some ways fluid and in some ways not.
So here's the part where, like Rick Warren, 40 Days of Purpose. We did the Purpose-Driven Life 2 years ago.
Yep.
Everybody's like, I'm trying to figure out what my purpose is. And there's a great quote from the Purpose Factor. It's an organization that specializes in purpose. Actually, we're hoping to have Eric Meck on from Purpose Factor here in the next month or so. But there's a great line from the Purpose Factor that says, what most people think is purpose, what they're really looking for is fulfillment.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's such a big idea, because everybody's like, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? Really what you're wanting to know. What's going to make me feel like I'm actually doing the thing that God put me here to do? What's going to make me feel fulfilled?
Yeah.
Calling is the area that God says, hey, I've called you to do this. I called you to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times people confuse the two, purpose and calling.
Mm-hmm.
And here's why this is an important thing. Your calling can change.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, I'm called to be a pastor, but let's say I'm not a pastor. Does that mean my purpose no longer exists?
That is not the case. No.
See the difference, right?
Yes.
So in fact, I think you could make a very strong and compelling argument that when we confuse our calling with our purpose, when we lose our calling, we lose our purpose. It's actually the same thing with identity. When our identity is in the wrong thing, and then that calling or that thing gets taken away, we lose our identity.
Marrying those ideas too heavily, and then, like you said, losing that piece can become so destructive to a person.
Oh, yeah.
And so maybe part of our conversation today could be, what does it look like to separate our identity and our calling? Do you think that may be a worthwhile kind of rabbit hole for here a second?
So here's a question that I get asked regularly.
Sure.
Should I fill in the blank? Should I take this job?
Yep.
Should I marry this person? Should I go on this vacation? Should I invest in this thing, right? Mm-hmm. The should I's are great calling questions.
Yeah.
And I would argue that unless something is just obviously going against God's word,
right? God
is like, just do it, be wise.
Sure.
Now, sometimes it's very clear that God has placed a calling in your life. When I went into ministry, there was a calling. Now, I had an internal sense of that calling, but then it was confirmed by other people. Like, no, we also see that call in your life. Okay. But when we over spiritualize it, all of a sudden we're constantly trying to find our calling. What's my calling? What am I supposed to do? And really, I think a lot of times what God wants to say is, as long as it's not sinful, just be wise. Make a decision. Take a step.
Sure.
And you might discover your calling. So I'll use ministry as an example. With, like volunteer ministry, investing. We don't like to call it volunteering anymore.
Sure.
Investing when you're working with something. I've had people when I'm like, hey, have you ever thought about working with kids? I'm not called the kids. Kids and I, that's not my thing.
Oh, okay.
And I go, okay, well, why don't you try it? Well, they really need your help. Fine, I guess so, right? All of a sudden, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks go by, and they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that I loved this much. Like, I'm finding so much value in this.
Sure.
And I've watched this more times than I can actually count. Like, legitimately, not just in children's ministry, but in other areas where somebody goes, well, I don't feel called to that. And I think calling, sometimes the thing is, God saying is, the first thing I'm calling you to do is just take a step. Just do something.
Okay. So an interesting question comes to mind.
Yep.
You said, yeah, well, you know, the calling stuff is really just about what God's telling me, and like you saying, like we're over.
There's some people who over spiritualize. Everything's got to be a calling.
Or like I really have to hear this.
Yeah.
Is discovering your calling more about listening to God like that, or joining with what God is already doing?
Yes.
Both.
Mm-hmm. It's not a one size fits all, and I think that's where a lot of people struggle.
Yeah.
Is they want this voice from heaven that's like, go into ministry, right? That's what they, or
buy the Subaru.
Yes, that's the thing they want. Like they're waiting for a call. Like, hey, hello, Lord. Yes, you want. Like that's what they're waiting for. And I think a lot of times people won't discover their calling until they take that first step. And you might discover something is not your calling, right? I know. I had a friend of mine years ago.
Ooh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think that's part of it too. Is I feel like also we're afraid to just run into a wall.
Yeah, or we're afraid of disappointing God.
Yep.
Or what if I screw up my calling? What if I do the wrong thing?
Yeah. Oh no, now this door's closed forever.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And as if God's sitting there like, oh, you missed the. It's like what's the show? The Drew Carey, not The Price is Right. It's the one where you have to choose the boxes.
Oh, Deal or No Deal?
No, the other one. It's the boxes, and it's been around forever.
I'm so sorry.
Anyways, I can't remember the names. But if you choose the wrong door, you get zonkered or whammied or whatever it is, and wah wah wah, and you lose it all. Like I think that's what people think calling is.
Yeah.
Is that if I do the wrong thing, God's gonna be like, sorry, you missed your shot. sucks to be you. Like, I think that's what happens.
Yeah.
And that's, for the most part, I don't think that's how calling works.
I was going to say, what creates that sensation in our minds to?
Or maybe it is Deal or No Deal. No,
that's cases. That's briefcases. I wasn't right. What do you believe can? Sorry, you were about to tell a story about your friend, and I want to get back to that. But my curiosity is just spiraling on this. What do you think created a culture of this ultimate failure that, like, now I am completely removed from God's
will?
Yeah.
Fear. We've created a fear-based culture that we fixated on things like purpose and calling.
Okay.
For a season. And I want you to do this. I think purpose and calling are important.
Of course.
But there was a season in the church where it was like, if you haven't found your purpose, you're floating through the universe with no direction, and you're just going to cease to exist. Like, as if that's how God works.
Or like we've attached even more shame to it. It's like, now you're being disobedient to God.
Yep. And so you get that. And then it's the calling, well, I don't know what to do. And sometimes God's like, just do the next right thing.
Wow.
Well, how do I know if it's the right thing? Well, is it a wrong thing? Like, I want you to think about that question for a second.
Mm-hmm.
We know what wrong things are.
Yep.
But we don't always know what the right things are.
Sure.
Like, wrong is, I think it's far easier to find out wrong than to know when something is the right decision. It's easy to go, don't do that decision, because there might be 20 right decisions, but there could be 1,000 wrong decisions.
Yeah, but oh man, it gets so gray so fast when you don't know. Like the aftermath.
And but is there really an aftermath most of the time? Like, let me be clear. If someone's like, should I take everything I have, sell it, and give it to the poor? Because Jesus told one guy to do it in the New Testament.
There could be more positives than negatives to that.
And a whole lot of turmoil, because Jesus actually said to the guy's face, take everything you have and give it to the poor.
Yeah.
And then it says the rich man walked away sad, right? Unless Jesus said it right to your face, it could just be you're having a crisis of identity or crisis of faith. So what do? You talk to people who are wiser than you and say, hey, I'll give an example, right? And then I will tell my story.
Yeah.
And I share this, and not with any shame anymore, but I felt a lot of shame. Before my last church, the last church that I was at, when it shut down, a year before it shut down, the leadership, I was severely underpaid, and we were going into debt every year because I was about $40,000 under poverty level.
Wow.
In San Jose, California, which, let's be clear, poverty in San Jose was $116,000 a year.
Wow.
You qualified for food stamps at $116,000.
Wow.
This was 10 years ago. And my leadership said, well, we're not going to give you a raise. You need to stop tithing. And we'd been tithing consistently. And I want you to hear this. We put our tithes on credit cards.
Wow.
Because we just couldn't afford to do it.
Yeah.
And yet we believed in it.
Right.
And I can look back at that now and go, okay, there was a lot of lack of wisdom there. But again, we're called to tithe. So what's the greater responsibility? So we stopped tithing. A year later, the church closed. Now, here's the reason why I think it closed. And I don't say this like everybody's trying to figure things out. What they should have done was, hey, maybe we need to give our pastor a livable wage so he can tithe. Not, let's have him not do one of the things that the Lord asks us to do.
Sure.
Right? Now, we end up, church closes, we move to Phoenix.
Okay.
And I have a basic severance package, not a very good one, but it's a basic severance package with the church closing from the denomination. So we decided, like, we're going to start tithing, even though I don't have a job. I'm tithing from what I'm getting from my severance. And we're at this church called Gateway in Scottsdale. And the pastor says, hey, we're going to do what's called a miracle offering, and I'm going to ask you to pray, and don't give if you don't want to. There's no obligation. There's no promise. But we want you to pray, and if the Lord gives a number, give it. And he shared the story about he and his wife both had the exact same number in mind, and I'm like, it was like a crazy, very specific number. I felt this wave of shame because I didn't tithe for a year, and so there was a part of me that was like, maybe I'm just supposed to give all my severance, like every penny I have, I'm supposed to give to the Lord. It's just kind of a way of saying I'm sorry.
Interesting.
Calling,
Yeah.
right? And I thought about it for like a full 24 hours. And I didn't talk to Lisa about it yet. I waited a full day before Lisa and I talked.
Sure.
And I literally, we continued. We tithed that entire year, which is a whole different miracle into itself. But ultimately, here's what I felt like the Lord said.
Mm-hmm.
Jason, you're forgiven, but more importantly, like, I didn't tell you to do that. Shame told you to do that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, okay.
I was trying to earn something back. I was trying to prove to God that I learned my lesson, right?
Sure.
And now here's the thing. We ended up putting $500, which we did not have. Now, you want to hear the crazy part. This is the coolest part about that story. We went a full year without me working.
Mm-hmm.
I drove Uber and Lyft on the side.
Which ministry happened in, too?
I had
a lot of stories.
A lot of great ministry stories in Uber and driving Uber and Lyft. But literally the day our bank account was going to hit zero, a year later was my first paycheck at Zion.
Wow.
The Lord carried us through for a full year. Now, here's the thing. One, the Lord does call us to trust him with our finances.
Yep.
You can debate about whether or not it's a tithe or if it's more. Let's move past that right now.
Right.
We are called to trust God with our finances.
Yep.
Our resources, right?
Yeah.
And we did. And the Lord sustained us and carried us.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there were two callings. One that was every dime you have, you need to pay the Lord back and show him how sorry you were that you didn't trust him for a year.
Okay, there was one.
And then the other one, which is, do you trust me with your finances?
Right.
Which of those is the wiser choice?
Trust.
Trust. Shame. And so sometimes, like a lot of times, I wonder how often people do things thinking they're trying to earn something from the Lord, and they're doing that. They mistake that for calling.
Yep.
Or they're trying to prove something to the Lord.
Dude.
Or to themselves.
Yep.
And the wise part is like, no, why don't you figure out why you're wanting to do that? And then you'll figure out if it's actually a calling. So let me give you the story of my buddy.
Okay. And then I have some I'd like to share too once you're finished.
Okay. So a friend of mine, it's a pretty quick story.
Yeah.
Friend of mine, we were doing spiritual gifts tests.
Okay.
And he's like, Jason, I already know what I'm called to do.
Okay.
And I said, okay, what is it? He goes, my highest spiritual gift is teaching.
Yeah.
I know I'm called to be a teacher. I said, well, why do you think that? He goes, well, every spiritual gifts test I take tells me that's my gifting and that's my calling. I said, cool.
Sure.
Well, why do you think you're supposed to do that apart from a test?
Right.
Well, I every time I start a Bible study, people just love my Bible studies. I said, oh, cool. So are you doing one right now? Well, no, how come? And I said, why? And he goes, well, usually after about the third week, everybody's gone.
Oof. What?
And so I lovingly, and I wasn't trying to be mean, I just said, I think you want your calling to be teaching. Mm-hmm. And maybe that doesn't mean you can't develop the skill.
Yeah.
But here's the problem with spiritual gifts tests. You can fake your calling.
Sure.
I like this, so God must be calling me to this. Now, that doesn't mean that's not a good litmus or a starting point. Mm-hmm. But then the fruit is the second part. How did I discover that I was called to teach and preach and lead? Mm-hmm. Because there was effectiveness in fruit. There's a quote that says, if you think you're a leader but nobody's following you, you're just taking a walk. Mm. So when people are like, I have the gift of leadership. Oh, well, when was the last time you led something? Well, I'm not really leading anything right now.
Sure.
Well, have you ever led anything before? No, but I know I'm called to be a leader. Now, it could be. Let's be clear. There were tons of examples of individuals who had no leadership skill. God pulls them in.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes we confuse our passions and say, well, if I'm passionate about something, I must be called to it.
Yeah.
And I want you here. That's a good launching place, but it's not a good finishing place. Because sometimes you might be passionate about something, but it may not be the thing you're called to do. I was passionate about basketball.
Right.
I'm 5'6". I had a decent vertical, but not that good.
Sure.
Like I touched rim once in a game.
There you go.
In a game. Just because I was passionate about it doesn't mean it was my calling.
Sure.
So then the question is how do we find our calling?
Yeah.
And I think you can find your calling even before you can define your purpose. I think sometimes you'll start narrowing down on your purpose. And calling can be very broad. Your purpose is very specific.
Yeah.
And often in your purpose, your calling will help you live out your purpose. That's actually how I discovered my purpose. Is I started looking at the things that I felt called to and that I saw fruit in, and I started going, what's the common denominator? So for years, I thought my purpose was to be a pastor. No, because I could not be a pastor. I could lose. I may not get hired. I may not get the job. I could. What happens when I retire from ministry?
Yeah.
So am I no longer, did my purpose disappear? But calling was a specific thing for a time. Calling is seasonal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So you were gonna ask or say something.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts. I just trying to kind of put it together here. So a couple of things come to mind as I'm listening to you. Calling and the mode that we live it out can, and I'm sure the list is a little bit wider, but let me kind of give what I'm hearing is ways that we can kind of live out our calling is by giving of our time, our gifts, talents, finances, serve it like literal, like, works, and things like that. And that looks a whole bunch of different ways in any different season, right? So like your work might change. Your finance situation is going to change. All those sorts of things. But your purpose in those things, and the purpose that we have, which is, as you said earlier, to love God, glorify God, and you
to
say it
know
again.
God,
Know God,
be known by God, and make God known.
make God known. I think of, and I have heard some of your stories, so I'm sorry that they're not going to get the chance. But what I have heard from your stories in the past is like when that season changed, and when you were doing Lyft and Uber and stuff, your purpose, which I can't define for you, but what I've heard you say is to share the gospel.
Yep.
You did that in the midst of what your perceived calling wasn't, right? Or whatever. You were driving.
Or my calling changed.
Or your
my calling changed to be an Uber driver.
In that time, your calling was to be an Uber driver, and your purpose was to administer the gospel. And the other thing I wanted to say as I was listening to you is in this tithing conversation you were just having, you said, God has asked me to tithe. I am obedient to that calling of being someone who tithes, right? And so that never changed. That your obedience to what God has asked you to do didn't change, even when it was at great sacrifice. In fact, I mean, we can argue that tithe is supposed to be a sacrifice.
Makes it a tithe.
Makes it a tithe. But the whole point of what I'm getting at is when those instruments of calling change, I think it says more about you or whoever's in this situation being the type of person that no matter how those things changed, they were still the type of person that stayed with their purpose, which is to know God, make God known, and be known by God, and to love him and to be obedient to him. So my question then, after everything I just shared, which is like how those resources of calling can change, but the purpose doesn't, is centered around a person. So is God more concerned with who we're becoming rather than what we're doing?
Always. So I'm gonna bring up a painful subject for some people, and I'm gonna acknowledge that this is a pain point for some people.
Okay.
Many years ago, I had somebody who said, Jason, I know my purpose in life is to be a parent.
Oof. I think I know where you're going with this.
And then they couldn't get pregnant.
Yep.
And the heartache. And they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on IVF.
Sure.
Because God told them this is their purpose, is to be a parent.
Okay.
And so I said, that might be, but why does it have to be through natural children? Well, that's what the Lord told me.
Sure.
But don't you think there are like kids who need to be adopted?
Sure.
Who could use a wonderful parent? But that's not, I'm called to be a parent. Yeah. And my purpose is to be a parent. And when they couldn't do it, like now they were desperately trying to make their purpose happen. And I think what happens when we reframe that and say the calling to be the parent, I do believe there are some people that God has said, I've put you in this place to be a parent. But let's think about the different ways someone can be a parent that God has intended. Biological parent, adoption parent, spiritual parent.
Yep.
All of those are parenting. Now, God might say, you might say, I feel like I'm called to have my own kids. Well, when that doesn't happen, you then go to the next calling. My calling is adoption. And let's say you can't adopt. And so then my calling is spiritual. Again, I'm not saying that their purpose was that, but they were dead set. Like, that's my purpose. The Lord told me that's why I'm here. And I'm like, in the process, they couldn't live out their purpose unless they did it, unless they felt like their calling was exactly the way it was supposed to match their purpose. I have to have biological children, and they couldn't.
It is interesting because you have alluded in throughout this conversation that calling is something we have a measure of control over.
Yes.
And in fact, probably the most amount of control over that. Purpose, maybe not so much.
No, I think we have control over all of it.
All of it.
But when you don't step into your purpose, which is why
Might
it's
be
helpful.
going against the stream kind of
Yeah,
situation.
which is why it's so good to know your purpose, to understand why God put you here. But
So I guess kind of what I'm saying there is a part of something that I've been trying to learn more and more about is if purpose is what's going to drive me and calling can change, what am I constantly doing to live out purpose, even if calling or the mode of operation changes?
well, this is why I'm excited when Eric Meck comes from Purpose Factor. Like, this
Yeah.
is,
Oh,
what
this is
he
great.
does.
Yeah.
This is all he does is purpose.
Yeah.
In the last 6 months, I've become more clear on my purpose. I was pretty clear about it before, but I've become more clear.
Sure.
And because of that, I've now stepped into some new streams of calling because I've become clearer on my purpose. And so when I understood that my purpose wasn't just about the gospel, like that's one of my greatest desires.
Right.
Like, I love Jesus,
Right.
right? But I feel like my purpose is to help other people encounter God's love for their life, to step into their calling and purpose, and to help people understand how much they're loved by Jesus and the life in the world that they could step into if they understood that. Like, that's all part of my thing, right?
Yeah.
Now, understanding that, as I became clear on that, now I've started coaching on the side.
Okay.
And not even a side. I've just started coaching. I've started doing leadership and development coaching. I've started doing social media stuff, which you and I have talked ad nauseum about how I've struggled with that, because I struggle with social media. There's so much negative and bad stuff with social media. And I've had people over the years, not just recently, I mean, like for the last 4 or 5 years, who are like, Jason, I think you have a calling to do social media. And I'm like, nah, because that one self-promotion night, not big fans. But when I started becoming clear on my purpose, I went, okay, can I use this? If, let's say I'm called to this, can I point people? Can I utilize my purpose to call people to the thing that I believe God has put me here for? That's my purpose. And yes, so when I preach on a Sunday morning, the reason I preach the way I do, it's my purpose. Now, the calling right now is to preach. It's to be a lead pastor. But what happens if God says, or life happens and I'm no longer a lead pastor? Does that mean my purpose ceases to exist? No, this was the Uber. My purpose and calling was always to share Jesus and to point people to God's love for them, right? So whether I was on the pulpit or behind the seat of an Uber, driving Uber, I'm going to do that. And there are some things that God says that all of us are called to do, and regardless of purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are some things that all of us are called to do, and there are some things, and that's why the conversation gets so confusing, because let me give you some examples of things that God calls all of us to do, to love our neighbor.
Yep.
That's a calling that God puts on every single one of us.
And that can look a gajillion different ways.
That's right. We're called to serve one another.
Yep.
We're called to forgive one another. So some people are like, how do I find my calling? Well, I'm going to tell you, one of the best ways to do it is open the Bible.
Yep. Yeah.
And look for the things, and look for the things that God actually says, I'm calling you to do this. They're not your purpose. Your purpose is not to forgive. Your job does not exist. God did not put you in the world so you can forgive people. That's Jesus' job. That was Jesus' purpose.
Wow. Yeah.
It's not mine. There's already a Messiah. His name's Jesus.
Yeah.
My calling, though, and my purpose is to point people to that. So there are things we are called to represent Jesus in the world. Now, you might say, well, what's my calling? What's my job? Cool, let's figure that out. But no matter what, the things that God tells you to do should always be a part of your life in every aspect. Does that make sense?
It does, because to me, like, it flows, again, I keep bringing it up, but it flows from that identity piece. I am when someone says, I'm the type of person who, and then forgives and loves and serves. We used that word fulfillment earlier.
Yeah.
And if those are God-given callings, is those things that you just said, there's fulfillment in that, no matter how it plays out. And then that's where things like your giftedness, your talents, your resources might become part of the equation, where it's like, oh yeah, I have a gift for baking. You can love your neighbor, serve your neighbor, and love God through baking or whatever.
And that might be like, okay, let's take the meta, the overarching principle, right? Somebody's like, Jason, I feel like my purpose is hospitality.
That's wonderful.
That's so big and broad and yet narrow at the same time.
Yep.
Because they can do it. Is there a pen around? I just had a great idea.
Yeah, I got you.
I had a great illustration that I and bring the notepad too.
Yep. Well, I figured you probably need something to write on.
Yeah. So no, I just had this illustration come to me. Okay, ready for this?
Okay.
What is the purpose of a pen?
To write.
That's its primary purpose.
Yep.
Its calling is to write specific things.
Okay.
The purpose is to it's meant to write things. Now check this out. Ready? Help. That was its calling. Now check this out. The purpose of it to write, but it can also have a calling that sometimes doesn't naturally reflect its purpose. Because let's say it's windy outside, and so I put the pen down on the paper.
To make sure.
What's its calling now?
It's a paperweight.
Is it living out its purpose?
Not technically.
No. Does that mean it's still not doing something?
Right.
No, its purpose is to write. Now, here's the coolest part about this. Once you understand your purpose, the reason why you exist, now you can go, oh, because sometimes this thing is called to write on this, sometimes it's called to write on this, sometimes it's called to write one document versus another. Does that make sense?
Sometimes it's called to draw.
Sometimes it's called to write poetry, but its purpose is to write. And so I think what a lot of times what people want is they want God to be like, well, my purpose is to write poetry. Okay, what if you suck? What if you're not a good poet?
The other part too is that I like about this illustration is with that trust piece.
Yeah.
Right? And the reliance piece that like this pen actually can't write without a hand.
Yeah.
And so we
that's good. That's good. Don't preach.
Yeah. Boom. We need guidance.
Yeah.
We need that. And so continuing to trust that is good too. And so a part of me also, I'm not trying to dive deeper into a metaphor, but like this pen can't protest with what I'm telling it to write. However, we can.
Yeah.
So that becomes a whole different conversation too.
So
where you're you're talking about those bad things. Like we can obviously tell that that's not a good thing.
And in fact, Paul talks about that our purpose, that he is the potter, we are the clay.
Yeah, exactly.
And the clay doesn't determine what it becomes.
Can't even be shaped.
And so here's part of the problem is when you start going against your purpose, you might still be doing something effectually, but you're not doing the thing you were ultimately called to do, the thing that makes you feel fulfilled. So let's say I use this and I throw it at you, right? Is that its purpose?
No.
It accomplished something, but it didn't fulfill its mission.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of times the reason why they're struggling is like, well, I don't know how to figure out my purpose. And so here's a couple fun ways to figure out purpose and calling. And again, super excited when we get to have Eric here.
Yeah, that'll be really fun.
But God does use some of your passions.
Yeah.
It's like if you're passionate about something, it could be that might be your purpose and your calling, unless that passion is sinful. Right? So let's say your passion is to steal. Like you love finding creative ways to steal. There are people who do that, right? That's like their whole thing. If that's your thing, well, we already know that's not what God created you for. But let's use that poetry illustration. Somebody says, Jason, I just know the Lord put me here to write poetry. I'm going to write amazing poems. And they absolutely suck. They're just horrible.
Sure.
Right? Well, the purpose is actually supposed to have a potential for fulfillment.
Well, okay, but I do have a question, though. Where does growth line up with that?
Okay, now you're getting into something. Okay. What if their purpose was not to write poetry, but to create?
Yeah.
And the calling is to get better at poetry. And in time, they're going to fulfill but they've mistaken. Poetry is the thing, but let's say they suck.
Because no kid comes out and instantaneously is proficient.
No.
I mean, savantism is a cool thing, but it's not the
No.
It's not everyone.
Right. And so I think you can make the argument is that sometimes we have to actually look at the bigger thing. We think our purpose is very myopic.
Yeah.
When in reality, the purpose it's singular in its purpose, but it's broad and there's so many things that it can impact.
So I think like you're like, I almost think of just how much weight that removes from someone.
Yes.
If it's like, no, I'm supposed to, I'm supposed to write poetry. I'm supposed to write poetry.
I'm supposed to be a pastor, Jason. I'm supposed to be, okay, then go be a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no one will hire me. Okay, so then what is it? Well, maybe what it is they have a pastoral heart. Do you need a ministry? Do you need a title to do that?
Yeah.
You need to have an MDiv to be pastoral.
I've already said this. I do believe a calling of pastoral ministry, and I'm never going to limit it by I'm called that.
And it could be your purpose. God put you here to be pastoral.
Yes.
But the calling may not always be I'm going to be a pastor. Mm-hmm. And again, I get it. There's a lot of things, a lot of layers to this that make this confusing. But I think so passion. Sometimes God wants to look at your passion.
Yeah.
Your expertise.
Yep.
Now, and I'm not going to say statistics what it is because I don't know and I'm sure they're not accurate. Excuse me. But I wonder how many people go into college and they end up getting jobs that have nothing to do with their major.
It's a common thread.
Pretty common, right?
Yeah.
I'm guessing the statistic is pretty high.
Yeah.
Right. They spend all this money on a calling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what the purpose of college was not actually to find your calling, but to just teach you discipline and education.
Mm-hmm.
One of my mentors years ago said to me, that piece of paper that you get when you graduate doesn't guarantee you'll be a pastor. What it does show a church is that you know how to do something.
Yeah.
That you know how to be disciplined, that you know how to accomplish a task. That paper says more than the education does.
Mm.
Because I know people who got great grades in school and are horrible at the job.
Well, your college conversation plays into I think the problem as well is because what we're actually telling people to decide is what their calling is in their freshman year. Like
at least their sophomore when they have to declare a major.
Most you have to declare a major before you even start your track now.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. I know someone right now who's presently getting ready for their first year of college, and when they had said to the administration or to the council or whoever is there, I'm undecided, it was a problem.
That's crazy because no one knows what they want to be.
No.
Now,
which is part of the pressure is what I'm telling you. Is
but your purpose could be.
Yeah.
Your purpose could be, no, I just want to, I feel called to, my purpose is to learn.
Yeah.
And again, that language is interchangeable in a lot of ways. Purpose and calling kind of go hand in hand, right? But someone could say like, no, I believe I'm here because I want to learn. I'm curious. I feel like that's why God put me here.
Exploration is good. I had another wonderful conversation with someone recently who said they knew for sure they were going to go into some form of medical field.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And they thought it looked like, they thought it looked like speech pathology. Mm. And then they started doing that, and
they hated it.
It was not that they hated it; they were just like, "This isn't it." And then so this is how I kind of want to segue is like we've been so internally focused about, oh, this is how I feel, this is how this is it. What it took was some guidance for someone to say, "Have you thought about PT?
Yeah.
Have you considered that at all?" And when they went down that route, they were like, "This is it."
Yeah.
So
because their purpose is to help people.
Yes. So my question to you is, where does opportunity, community, like inner conviction, like where does all of this stuff like?
Well, so I think the reason
together.
why community is so important is you want people who can affirm calling and purpose in your life. Mm-hmm. I felt a calling to be a pastor when I was 15.
Okay.
That's how I knew at 15 that I was going to go into ministry.
Sure.
But the reason is that I was so passionate about sharing Jesus with people.
Yeah.
Like, and I've talked about my Jerk for Jesus days and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
So ministry made sense.
Mm-hmm.
What happened if I didn't? Does that mean my purpose disappeared? No, it just means that my calling shifted. My purpose did not.
Mm-hmm.
But community plays a large part in that. And when I meet people who are like, I just don't know what my purpose is, ask the people closest to you who know you. Ask your spouse. Ask your, if you have grown children, ask them. Ask people that have done
Friends,
life
mentors.
with you. Yeah, like I love hospitality. I love hospitality. I love having people in my house. I love making food. I love doing that. I really do think part of my purpose in this world is to make people feel welcome.
Yeah.
How I do that, even when I lead, I think about the conversations we've had. Why did we get the LED screen? It wasn't to be cool. It was so that when the visitor comes, they're not straining going, what's that say?
What does that say?
Right? Because that's hospitality. The calling changed. All right. Let's do one more point on this. And really, this is why I'm really excited for Eric again when Eric comes from Purpose Factor. Because this is his wheelhouse. This is what he talks about. I think one of the other ways that you can find your calling is just trying new things.
Yes.
You might be surprised that something that you just had no clue. I had no clue how much I'd enjoy making videos for social media. Like, I'm enjoying the creative process. Is it my purpose? No. But it is the vehicle for my purpose.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I even like the perspective, like you shared in a personal conversation, that it's even invigorated you further in the other areas where your calling is being, or your purpose is being lived out through your calling.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's really cool too.
It's made my sermon shorter.
I just like that when you recognize that it can look differently, everything kind of becomes an opportunity.
And when you over spiritualize it, you're so afraid of missing God's calling for your life.
Yeah, I've certainly been paralyzed by that, fear several times. I need to hear it. I need to hear it. But I like what you're saying, man. If it's attached to the core.
And here's the cool part: if God shuts down a calling, He'll open up a different one.
Right, because your entire world didn't just get turned upside down by what you were doing.
And that's why when you understand your purpose is how you fulfill those things. It's when you go, oh, that's why I'm here.
Yes.
So,
it's the why, not the what.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it down or to summarize it. I had somebody this last week who, I don't know that he's a Christian, left church, went years ago with an ex, and doesn't live here. Texted me out of the blue, and he's like, hey, your church is on North 4th. I said, yeah, why? And he goes, well, I'm thinking about coming to check out your church. I'm like, oh, cool. I've noticed he's been watching the videos that I've been posting.
Sure.
And so I said, hey, I noticed that you've been watching my videos. Thank you. And this is what he said. Now, here's what's interesting. Last Tuesday, I literally woke up not feeling well, and I'm like, dude, am I just wasting my time by doing all this stuff? I think I told you this story already.
Yeah.
And he texted me, literally, that was the morning I woke up going, I don't know. He texted me, he says, I think I'm going to come to your church. And I said, well, man, I know a great church up in your area. My buddy's pastoring it. I really encourage you. He goes, how about I just step into your church first? Because I don't even know. I'm just curious. And then I said, I've noticed you've been watching the videos. Thank you. And he goes, well, honestly, that's why I'm interested in checking out church. And he goes, you got me curious about faith.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, Lord, message received, right?
Got it.
Because my goal is to point people.
Yep.
My purpose is to point people to God, to help them discover how much they are loved by God, God's purpose and calling for their life. And so the vehicle change, which means you get to be creative.
Yeah.
You get to explore and try new things. And if something doesn't work, then go on to the next thing. But when you think your calling is a thing, my calling is this. And then when it doesn't happen, all of a sudden you're like, because you confuse calling with purpose.
Yeah.
And so let's end with this. Purpose. Purpose of the pen is to write. It is not meant to be a throwing tool. It's not meant to be a paperweight. It is meant to write. It is most fulfilled. Keyword. Most fulfilled. When it is actually writing something. What it writes, that's what its calling is. What it writes on, that's what its calling is. But if I use this as a projectile, while it might effectually have an impact, that's not what it was designed for. We struggle to understand what we're designed for, but we also forget that our calling has a lot of different surfaces. And a lot of different vehicles to write on, to do those things. And so as soon as we were talking, like, ooh, I like that. That illustration kind of hits that really well.
Yeah, it does. Man, I think I'm really excited to have Eric on.
Eric Meck. Dude, if you're watching, I doubt you are, but when you do, bro.
He'll be coming. I think we're still lining up a date. But next week we do have a guest coming.
Do we have Bill next Tuesday?
Yeah.
Dude, I love my buddy. He just got his own podcast, Priority Living. Check it out.
Cool.
Priority Living podcast.
We'll link it when he's here.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. In the meantime, speaking of links, you can always check out our description to find links to our social media. Share this with someone who you think could use a little bit of encouragement on their purpose and calling. And if you have any questions, please email us at podcast@ZionClearLake.org. I almost said it wrong again. But thank you again for watching. We'll see you next week.